Sunrise on a deserted island always carries a quiet beauty, but that glaring light from the ocean last night is a signal that cannot be ignored. The storm has passed, leaving behind a suspiciously calm sea. The coral reef water level is currently ideal for a reconnaissance mission.
As you can see, the sea is beautiful today, but that glint is definitely not natural. I have to go out there and check it immediately.
Gear must be extremely lightweight. Venturing beyond the coral reef with primitive tools carries significant risks if the weather changes suddenly. The distance from the shore to the floating object requires a buoyant transport. Free swimming out there would be a terrible decision. To approach the deep water safely, she needs a makeshift raft. Bamboo and wild banana stalks are the only options available right now. The first technique is selecting materials. Wild banana stalks contain many natural air pockets, providing excellent buoyancy without the strenuous chopping required for hard woods. Bamboo is placed horizontally on top to provide rigidity to the deck. However, binding them with vines is a fatal weak point if ocean waves suddenly change direction. Her survival rope is too short for the entire raft. The load-bearing core must utilize jungle vines that have been stripped of their bark to increase grip tension.
I have to cross-lock these corners incredibly tight. If one knot is loose, the entire structure will fall apart the moment it hits the strong currents beyond the reef.
This bound structure is strong enough to bear the weight of one person, but its crude, square shape means cutting through the water will be extremely slow. A short paddle is of little use in shallow water filled with sharp coral. A long bamboo pole is the perfect tool for pushing the raft and maintaining distance. The rising tide helps reduce friction significantly. Pushing a massive amount of bamboo and banana stalks across wet sand is not an easy task. The stability of the crude raft is immediately put to the test. Weight distribution between her and the two small animals must be perfectly balanced to avoid capsizing. The long bamboo pole reaches its maximum effectiveness in shallow water. Instead of paddling, using direct pushing force from the seabed saves a considerable amount of energy. When the coral reef ends, the depth changes abruptly. The tiny raft is now entirely at the mercy of the massive, smooth, yet highly risky ocean currents.
The water here is incredibly deep. This bamboo pole is completely useless now. From here on, I have to use a short piece of bamboo to paddle my way.
Hand paddling on a bulky raft depletes physical stamina very quickly. However, the mysterious glint is finally clearly within sight. The ocean water in this area is noticeably colder due to deep currents. The distance is now close enough to confirm the mysterious glint is not a marine creature. The blinding reflection comes from a strange glass covering on the lid of an iron-bound wooden chest. This is clearly the remnant of a shipwreck. Waterlogged oak makes the chest extremely heavy, maintaining buoyancy just barely below the wave surface. The massive iron padlock is rusted, but the structure remains intact.
Look at this! An iron-bound chest. It's incredibly heavy on top. I simply need to find a way, tie it to the raft, and tow it back to shore.
Her overreaching pulling force immediately threatens the fragile structure of the raft. Any sudden shift in the center of gravity could capsize the entire bamboo deck. Instead of risking pulling it onto the raft, the only safe solution is to use the rope to securely tie the chest's handle and tow it behind using the free-floating buoy principle. Within minutes, the sound of the wooden block hitting the water has attracted an uninvited guest. A sharp dorsal fin tears through the calm sea surface. It is a large reef shark. In deep waters, they are extremely curious and ready to investigate any strange object.
There is a shark swimming around the raft. It is very large. Do not want to provoke it right now.
Staying motionless is not a long-term solution. She needs to create a physical boundary to prevent the predator's exploratory bite. Sharks often use their snouts to bump test prey. A strong collision with the floating chest instantly destabilizes the entire structure. The weak resistance of the raft further stimulates the hunting instinct. The safe distance has vanished. and a direct confrontation is inevitable. A decisive thrust into the water. The goal is not to kill, but to create a physical warning strong enough to force the predator back. However, the rough skin and sheer power of the animal easily deflect the bamboo tip. The sudden kickback strips away her longest defensive weapon.
It's knocked the ball away. Oh, yes.
The nose and eyes are a shark's two most sensitive points. In a situation where the distance advantage is lost, a short weapon becomes the most effective life-saving tool. Fortunately, the resolute defense and the hard wood of the chest discourage the predator. The massive dark mass slowly sinks into the deep ocean. The crisis has passed but drained her last bit of stamina. The most urgent task now is to use the hand paddle to get the chest out of the deep waters. The next enemy doesn't have sharp teeth, but is equally dangerous. The deep ocean currents are trying to push the fragile raft further offshore.
This chest is like an anchor. My arms are completely numb, but if I stop for a second, the current will sweep everything out to the open sea.
The continuous drag from the waterlogged oak block is putting tremendous pressure on the knots. The jungle vines are beginning to show signs of fraying. Maintaining a continuous paddling rhythm under the scorching sun severely depletes body hydration. Focus and willpower are the only things keeping her moving forward. Every effort finally pays off. The jade-colored boundary of the shallow coral reef has appeared just ahead. Crossing this boundary line, the ocean waves loses their power significantly. Even though she lost the long pole, she can wade into the shallow water to tow the raft on foot. Dragging the waterlogged oak block through the shallow water drains the entirety of her stamina. The final resistance comes from the wet sand itself. The safety boundary has been established, but the price paid is that the crude bamboo raft has been completely swept away by the current. Fortunately, the entire crew survived the encounter. A short rest is mandatory before attempting to handle the spoils of war.
This rusted lock is as hard as a rock. It's getting dark. I can't break it open right now. We will open this chest tomorrow morning.
The night tide can rise unexpectedly. Tying the chest securely to a palm tree base is the final precautionary step of the day to avoid losing the spoils. The mystery behind the chest's lid remains tightly sealed. A long night of waiting is testing their patience on this deserted island.
Personally, I consider today's sea expedition a massive gamble. Venturing beyond the safety of the reef on a makeshift raft built from banana stalks and vines was a decision fraught with unpredictable risks. The moment that waterlogged chest shifted the center of gravity, we clearly saw the fragility of primitive engineering against the absolute power of ocean currents. But what truly impresses me is her ability to control the situation. When she lost her primary distance weapon, the long bamboo pole panic could have easily set in. Instead, her split-second decision to adopt a close-quarters defensive stance with a short knife effectively deterred a massive predator without escalating into violence. The biggest takeaway here isn't about the mysterious chest or sheer physical endurance. The core of survival is knowing your limits, respecting the power of nature, and understanding that the smartest tactic is always retreating to a safe zone before it's too late.